Hello aspirants. Looking at current affairs for 29th March, the news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 17. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, after leaks, CBSE to hold fresh exams for 2 papers. So after CBSE papers, it is alleged were leaked on WhatsApp. The 10th standard maths paper and 12th standard economics paper as such would be scheduled for the examination. So CBSE has announced this. Plus also it has said the government is conducting an internal inquiry in the matter too. So HRD minister also made this statement. The Ministry of HRD is going to create a national test agency has been announced too. So this will take away the burden of multiple examinations on CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education. So this is the CBSE is the board which has the NCERT textbooks as such. So this national testing agency is proposed to be created. Plus also there are proposals to put in a stronger system to preserve exam sanctity. So for this also it is being discussed that even electronically coded papers can be had. Means there will be the question paper which will be electronically coded. Means there will be a passcode as such. And the key would be given only 1 hour before the exam. So the centers would get the key to this coded paper and they will have to print in the presence of observers the question papers. So of course this will have logistics concerns too. Presently the question papers are already printed and stored in bank lockers and are released at the centers just before the examination. So a proposal as such has been, it is being discussed as such too. But then if it is an internal leak, then even electronically coded papers can be leaked as well before being coded. Then next is whistleblower likens it to modern colonialism. So this is regarding Cambridge Analytica issue only. So the parent organization of Cambridge Analytica, SCL, it has its centers all across the world, and SCL India is also functioning with its having its various branches, headquartered in Ghaziabad and branches all across the country, you can see. So the whistleblower, Christopher Willie, who was part of Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica is part of this SCL group only. So this whistleblower has now given details and he has put documents on his Twitter account in which he has shown that several Lok Sabha candidates as well as candidates during the state assembly elections too had used the services of SCL. So political parties were being helped to target their audiences based on caste and other factors by this SCL group. So this is what the whistleblower has given details as. He has said that this is something like modern colonialism. Means now it is being tried to control population and control nations through deciding which political party comes to power in various countries. So the actual controversy was regarding US presidential elections, Donald Trump elections, and it has been investigated into. The Facebook accounts of users were used, the profiles were used as such, and behavioral analysis was done. So on the same lines, even in India, it is claimed that such services are being provided by this SCL group. It have been provided. So it says that our services help clients to identify key groups to effectively influence their behavior to realize a desired outcome, that they vote in favor of that particular candidate. So this behavioral research program is being done by SCL, and it has said it has targeted over 75% of households as such in the recent elections, the Bihar Assembly elections in 2010. It is said the earlier services were used during 2003 Rajasthan elections by a major political party. It says major states political party. And even in Bihar Assembly elections and even in the 2009 Lok Sabha elections, the services were used. So this is there. It says it assists the clients in not only identifying the correct battlegrounds on what issues should it fight the elections, but also the right audiences, messages, and the most importantly, right castes to target with their campaigns. So such services are provided, which is shocking. Then next is Chilameshwar questions probe against judge nominee. So this is Justice Justi Chilameshwar, who is the #2 judge in the Supreme Court presently. He has written to the CJI Justice Deepak Mishra, questioning an inquiry which has been initiated by Karnataka High Court Chief Justice, Mr. Maheshwari, Justice Dinesh Maheshwari. So this actually is regarding appointment of a judge. So when the Supreme Court Collegium recommended appointment of a judge from Karnataka High Court to the Supreme Court, this recommendation was actually sent back by the government. And after that, again when the recommendation has gone, the Karnataka High Court judge, Chief Justice as such, has been asked to look into the matter. So this inquiry initiated by the Karnataka High Court Chief Justice is being questioned, and he claims that this is on the basis of a letter from the government. So when the Supreme Court Collegium has recommended a name of Karnataka High Court judge to the government cannot ask directly. Bypassing the Supreme Court Collegium, it cannot ask the Karnataka High Court Chief Justice to look into the matter and inquire. So this is being challenged as such. It says, as per norms, Center does not directly communicate with High Courts after the Collegium has recommended a name for elevation. And this is the second time the name is being recommended. This is the second recommendation. So this is one point, that Center cannot do this, and even he points out, secondly, Justice Maheshwari, the Karnataka High Court Chief Justice, also should not have unilaterally commenced the inquiry solely on the basis of government's letter. So this is questioning the Collegium's dignity as such and the status. So this is being put forth by Justice Chelameshwar before the CJI. Also, the judge in question who has been recommended to be elevated to the Supreme Court from the High Court is District and Sessions Judge P. Krishna Bhatt. He was first recommended in August 2016, but then complaints came against him. A woman judge complained of accusing him of atrocities and abuse of power. So a committee was set up to look into the matter, and it was Justice Mukherjee who gave his report in this matter in November 2016, saying that the allegations are incorrect and concocted. So then our Collegium again recommended him in April 2017. And on this recommendation now, the government asked the Karnataka High Court Chief Justice to conduct an inquiry, which is now being questioned. It is said that according to the Memorandum of Procedure for appointment of judges also, the government has to comply if the Collegium gives its recommendation for the second time. There is no other option before the government. This is a point highlight. Then next is, Center likely to move Supreme Court for clarification on Kaveri verdict. So you should remember that in February 2018, we had discussed that Supreme Court gave its verdict on Kaveri water dispute, important news, and it had given 6 weeks time to the government, central government, to frame a scheme for sharing an allocation of river water amongst the 4 riparian states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala and Puducherry. So this 6 weeks time is now coming to an end, and Supreme Court has been moved by the central government has moved the Supreme Court asking for clarification that what does this scheme mean under Section 6A of the Interstate Water Disputes Act. Because the judgment did not specifically mention Kaveri Management Board has to be established, as the Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal Award of 2007 had asked for. It asked for a scheme. So here the 2 major riparian states, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, differ. Tamil Nadu wants the Kaveri Management Board to be established, whereas Karnataka says that this scheme as such means a 6-member Kaveri Decision Implementation Committee should be established, headed by Union Water Resource Minister and a monitoring agency. So which one of the two is the scheme which Supreme Court wanted is being asked to be clarified by the central government. Also, you should know that in this Supreme Court judgment in February 2018, it modified the allocation of water to the 4 states also. So you can see this is the allocation based on the 2007 Tribunal Award, Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal Award, and since this Tribunal Award did not satisfy the riparian states, they had approached the Supreme Court, and this is the new allocation which has been done. So you can see Puducherry and Kerala, they get a minor share, so their share has not been changed by the Supreme Court. Bengaluru allocation has increased, and the share which Karnataka would provide to Tamil Nadu has actually been reduced. So here you can see the details. Karnataka would get 270 plus 14.75 TMCFT more of water allocation. which is deducted from Tamil Nadu share. Also for environmental protection, 10 TMC feet and inevitable escapage into sea, 4 TMC feet has been provided for. So this was the landmark Supreme Court judgment in this Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal, which is a very old matter. It is a matter between the Madras Presidency and the princely state of Mysore. So in 1892, an agreement was signed between the two for Kaveri water sharing. So Madras Presidency was under the British colonial powers and princely state of Mysore was under a king. So here this water sharing agreement was in favor of Madras Presidency. So this was also evident. So it resulted in a dispute arising post independence too. And in 1990, Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal was established, which finally gave its verdict in 2007, but did not satisfy the states, especially Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So that's why even another chairman was appointed to the tribunal in 2014, but no hearing, no final conclusion came up because of this too. In 2016, Justice B.S. Chauhan, he resigned from the tribunal. So then after this, now we are seeing that since the Supreme Court was approached, Supreme Court has modified the tribunal award, and that is what is supposed to be implemented by the central government. Even you should know that tribunal award came in 2007, but it was after a gap of around 7 to 8 years in 2013 finally that the central government notified, a notification of the award came. So after the notification, it was mandatory for the government to make provision for the scheme, the Kaveri Management Board, to be established so that the tribunal award is actually implemented. Because even though the award has been given, but whether it has been implemented or not is not clear. So as long as the scheme is not in place, its implementation as such becomes difficult. It stays only on paper. So that is the whole thing regarding this. So here you can see on notification, the government has to frame a scheme for implementation of the final award. So this Kaveri Management Board is recommended by the tribunal, which should be established, which will look into it that the tribunal award is upheld. And this board as such would consist of members from the center and from the states also. So they will also have representation here. Then next is reopening Gandhi death case of futile exercise, Supreme Court. So actually a PIL petition has been filed before the Supreme Court questioning the fairness of the Kanpur Commission, which was looking into the conspiracy regarding assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. So this PIL petition is by Mumbai-based researcher Pankaj Fadnis, who is trustee of Abhinav Bharat Charitable Trust. But this petition has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. It has described that reopening this case is an exercise in futility. So we should know it's a 70-year-old delay now, it has been stated, and this is a contentious issue and the judiciary should not be used for such matters, has been put forth. So the doubts were raised as such that 4 bullets that were fired at Mahatma Gandhi, whether these 4 bullets were fired or not. The questions are being raised, but the Supreme Court said that the case is nationally important, but however the truth is already well known. So you should know about the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. It took place on 30th January 1948. He was shot by Nathuram Godse. Mahatma Gandhi was on his way for a prayer meeting and he was shot 3 times. So the reason which Nathuram Godse gave for killing Mahatma Gandhi was because he was kind and gentle to Pakistan government and the people of Pakistan. So he was part of the extremist Hindu group. He was ex-member of RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, and he had been allegedly hired by them along with the co-conspirator Narayan Apte to assassinate Mahatma Gandhi. And these 2 were also executed. They were sentenced to death in November 1949. They were executed as such. Then next is Cabinet nod for changes to NMC bill. So this is regarding the National Medical Commission bill. So now the central government has made some changes to this bill. The bill had been introduced in Lok Sabha and was sent for reference to the parliamentary committee. So now the bridge course which was proposed for Ayush practitioners, means Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy practitioners, Ayush. So a bridge course was proposed for them so that they can practice modern medicine to a limited extent, means allopathy. So even such doctors can, homeopathy and other doctors can also practice modern medicine with this bridge course. So this provision has been removed now from this bill. This was a controversial provision. Apart from this, it has been kept to the state governments to decide for necessary measures to address promoting primary healthcare in rural areas. Also, regarding the next national exit test, this has been in place in the modified bill too. So, for final MBBS examination, a common exam will be conducted across the country, which will be an exit exam called national exit test. So, this is there. Plus also the limit on the number of seats for which fees would be regulated in private medical institutions and deemed universities, which was at 40%. That for 40% seats fees would be regulated. Now it has been increased to 50% seats in this modified bill. So the cabinet has approved changes to this bill. So you should know about this National Medical Commission Bill 2017. It mainly seeks to replace the Medical Council of India with this National Medical Commission and a common entrance exam as we saw. So all medical graduates will have to clear this exam next to get practice license. And this NMC, National Medical Commission, will be a 20-member body comprising of chairperson, member secretary, 8 ex officio members and 10 part-time members. And regarding this fee regulation, we saw from 40% it has been increased to 50% seats in private medical colleges. Then next is opposition unites to support farmers' bills. So major opposition parties have now united in provisional support for 2 bills related to farmers. This has been drafted by farmers organizations. It's All India Kisan Sangharsh Committee. So this has drafted the 2 bills as such, and major opposition parties are ready to support it. They can be introduced in the Rajya Sabha, where Congress has a majority. So a good number as such. So these bills can be easily passed in the Rajya Sabha, and then even the Lok Sabha can be forced to look into the matter. So these 2 bills as such have been drafted in partnership with around 193 farmers organizations. The first bill is Farmers Freedom for Indebtedness Bill 2018. So this provides for one-time settlement of all farmers' loans, both from banks and private money lenders. So this is one bill. Another bill is Farmers' Right to Guaranteed Remunerative MSP for Agricultural Commodities Bill 2018. So this wants an MSP guarantee. As we have discussed this quite often, minimum support price is announced by the government, and presently also in the budget it has been announced that 150% MSP would be there, means MSP with 50% profit margin. So this bill means the entire cost of production, 100% cost will be taken care of, and there will be a 50% profit margin. So this MSP guarantee should be a legal right for every farmer, and there should be a restriction, a bar on selling at any price below the MSP which has been offered in the market. So this is the second bill, major provision being demanded as such. So also under indebtedness, the one-time settlement of loans should take place, and there should be a right to access institutional credit for the farmers. A quasi-judicial distress and disaster relief commission can also be established at the central level as well as in each state. So such quasi-judicial bodies are also being proposed. So these are the 2 major bills, and various political parties have shown support for it. So that it is being said that the bills need to be examined clause by clause basis and then can be introduced as such. So here you can see that the top 5 states which have major indebtedness, means 92.9% farmers in Andhra Pradesh are indebted. Agricultural households in Andhra Pradesh are under debt. So in all these southern states you can see debts are high, and in northeastern states they come in bottom 4. The percentage of agricultural households which have debt is low here. This is a data put forth from the Agricultural Statistics book of 2016. Then next is steps needed to improve Collegium system, says Supreme Court. So this is regarding the Collegium system. The collegium system is how the appointment of judges to Supreme Court and to High Courts take place. Appointment and transfer of judges. So here this collegium system is proposed to be modified. Even the government had come up with NJC, National Judicial Appointments Commission, but then in 2015 the Supreme Court struck down this NJC. It was done through a constitutional amendment. A constitutional amendment was done to make provision for this NJC. Even a separate NJC Act was passed. But a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court struck down this NJC, and then it also stated the collegium system also needs to be improved. So that was also highlighted in this NJC bench ruling, and it had been asked that a new memorandum of procedure should be finalized. So this MOP is being finalized, memorandum of procedure, with the Supreme Court and the central government working together. But it has not yet been finalized. So that is what the present bench of judges A.K. Goyal and Justice Rohinton F. Nariman are emphasizing on. There is an urgent need to improve the collegium system. And also, as the MOP proposes, an independent secretariat should also be established. So the corrective measures which are specifically required is that post-appointment conduct or inadequate performance or failure to uphold righteous conduct needs to be looked into. What steps need to be taken in such cases is required. Corrective measures are missing because the collegium system provides for appointment and transfer, and like yesterday we discussed impeachment of judges for Supreme Court and High Court. So that is how the removal of judges take place. But in between, if there is any misconduct, no corrective measure is possible. No significant corrective measure steps can be taken. So there is a need for that too. So improvement in collegium system is direly needed, and that is being highlighted. Also, this Supreme Court bench stressed the need for a full-time and independent body of experts to help in the appointment process too. So this is the case. So you should know about the collegium system too. So actually, the Constitution calls for appointment of judges and the appointment is done by the President in consultation with the CJI. So in the case of appointment of judge, the Chief Justice of India is consulted. So this is what the article of the Constitution specifically states. In case of Supreme Court judge appointment too, and under Article 217 for appointment of judges of state high courts too. So in high court case also the CJI and also Chief Justice of High Courts need to be consulted, and other judges may also be consulted. So this Supreme Court Collegium and High Court Collegiums are formed, but then there were questions raised whether this consultation is concurrence or not. So in the first judge case which came forth in 1981, it was said this consultation does not mean concurrence. So means the government will finally decide. The judges have to be consulted, but their viewpoint should not be taken as final and binding by the government. The President will appoint as such, means the government will decide. But in the second judge case, this was completely reversed. So in this, a larger bench overruled the decision of the previous first judge case. It was 9-judge constitutional bench in 1993. In the second judge case, which specifically provided for this so-called collegium system for the appointment of judges and even transfer of judges to Supreme Court and High Court. So here it said that consultation would mean concurrence. It would not diminish the primary role of CJI in judicial appointments. So it provided for this, and even in third judge case which came in 1998, it was actually a presidential reference. President K.R. Narayanan wanted the Supreme Court to clarify on the meaning of the term consultation. So where the consultation, how many number of judges should be consulted. So that clear description of collegium system was provided here. And the present form of collegium system has come into effect. But it is criticized because number one, it is non-transparent. It does not involve any official mechanism. There is no secretariat as such which decides how appointments are taking place. It's a closed door affair. So it's not known how judges are selected. No public knowledge about how they decide, how they take decisions is known. So that's why it is criticized. So, but later we have seen in October 2017, last year, that Supreme Court Collegium headed by Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra has resolved to go public with all its recommendations to the government. So all names which are considered for judicial appointments, even for transfers and elevations, are put on the Supreme Court website. So this is the new development which has taken place. And this is regarding the Collegium system, how it has evolved from the various judge cases to how it took place earlier, then even how many judges are required in Supreme Court Collegium, in High Court Collegium, and so on is detailed out here. Even the NJSC details are provided, but NJSC is no longer functional. So it was proposed but struck down by the Supreme Court in 2015. So the comparison is also provided here. And finally, the NJSC ruling of the Supreme Court is detailed out here, in which it struck down NJSC. And the reason for striking down NJSC was because you should know that NJSC comprised of 6 people as proposed in the NJSC Act and under the Constitution. So it would comprise of CJI and 2 senior most judges of Supreme Court, law minister, and 2 eminent persons appointed by government. Means 3 from judiciary side, 3 from executive side. So the Supreme Court said that NJSC violates the basic structure of the Constitution because it affects the independence of the judiciary. Because executive is also getting equal say, so means primacy and the independence of judiciary would be affected because of NJSC. So that's why it was struck down and reverted back to Collegium system. But there are proposals to modify the Collegium system, and that is taking place through this MOP procedure. Memorandum of procedure, which is being finalized by the 2 sides together. So a draft is prepared by Supreme Court, and then it goes to the government. Government modifies and gives another draft to the Supreme Court, and finally a draft with which both concur will be the final MOP. But we have not achieved that so far. So this MOP basically deals with eligibility criteria for appointments of judges, methods to make appointments, a secretariat in Supreme Court, High Court for this purpose, and also redressal mechanism for complaints. So this is MOP's major provisions. The next is Center Not for Supreme SC/ST, Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes, Creamy Layer. So a petition has been filed in the Supreme Court by the Samta Andolan Committee representing the poor and downtrodden strata of Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe community in Rajasthan. So it has asked that there should be a creamy layer even amongst SC/STs, so that the quota benefits which is snatched away by the affluent, the rich among the SC/ST, does not take place, and the deserving and impoverished are benefited. So the Supreme Court had asked the government's viewpoint on this. Government says we are opposed to the idea of creamy layer within SC and ST. So this whole thing, you should know what is creamy layer too. So it is actually in the Indra Sawhney case that this creamy layer criteria was put into effect. So it was in 1992, the 9th judge bench of the Supreme Court, in this case also famously known as Mandal case. So this upheld caste-based reservation for OBCs as valid, but called that creamy layer of OBCs, other backward caste, cannot avail reservation benefits. So this ruling of the Indra Sawhney case, it called for creamy layer only in case of OBCs, not in case of SCs and STs. Also, the government is arguing that based on this Indra Sawhney case, the landmark judgment given, since it is not mentioned, so for SC/STs there should not be any such provision. This is the viewpoint of the central government. The 3 main points in Indra Sawhney case you should know are that creamy layer must be excluded from backward classes, there should be no reservation in promotion, and reservation should be only up to 50%. It should not exceed 50%. So not more than 50% seats can be reserved, even with carry forward. Means if there is vacancy previous year, then carry forward, even if that is done, it should not exceed 50%. So now actually in this case, you should know that creamy layer is basically if your parents are having some government, significant government post, or are advocates, or having such professionals, then you are excluded from creamy layer. And even if parents' earnings are more, so the annual income limit is major criteria under creamy layer. So presently it is 8 lakh per annum. So if your parents' annual income is more than 8 lakh per annum, then you are creamy layer and excluded. Less than 8 lakh is not. So even if it is applicable for SCs, STs, and if we assume that SCs, STs do not have income more than 8 lakh. So if say 90% of SC, STs, if you claim, are not having such high income, then all of them would be beneficial for the reservation. Only those who are having very high income and who are at good posts would be excluded. So there is no justification for not having creamy layer in SCs, STs as well. So even the Samta Andolan Committee, the petitioner has argued that even the 2006 Constitutional Bench judgment as such, which came in this M. Nagaraj case, had said that means test is essential when individual claims reservation. So a scrutiny of the value and assets of an individual claiming reservation should be done. So then, based on this, they should be excluded from creamy layer. Excluded as the creamy layer. So the creamy layer needs to be excluded so that reservation reaches the deserving communities. Then next is Beijing restarts river data sharing. So China has now said that it will continue sharing data on Brahmaputra and Satluj rivers. So this is a confidence building measure which has been initiated post Doklam. Earlier sharing of this data took place, now it will be continued. So this you should know that the Brahmaputra river, which flows into India through Arunachal Pradesh here, as you can see, it is known as Yalung Sangpo in China. So in this Tibet plateau in China here, Yalung Sangpo river, which flows here as Brahmaputra, is one prominent river, and also the Indus and Satluj rivers. So for Satluj river too, which rises from the Mansarovar region here, Kailash Mansarovar region, the Mansarovar lake here. So data for these, because these rivers originate here. So the data regarding the water flow as such, and if this is shared with the lower riparian states, then it results in better precautions being taken even in cases of floods. Generally it is floods, and even if it is a drought case. So Brahmaputra is highly flood river which floods a lot. So this data is very much significant for India if it is shared by China. So this is the case. Then next is trade on agenda of Tokyo talks. So we are going to hold the 9th India-Japan strategic dialogue, and this has been held in Tokyo, Japan. So this has been instituted since 2007. So this is the 9th year, and the dialogue is alternately held in India and Japan. So presently the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj is in Japan, Tokyo, for this India-Japan strategic dialogue, and here the meeting would discuss regarding the Quad formation to the Quad grouping, which has been revived in 2017. Quad are the 4 nations: USA, India, Japan and Australia. So the Quad grouping as such was first proposed by Japanese PM Shinzo Abe in 2007, and it has been revived 10 years later in 2017 when a meeting of officials of all 4 countries took place. So further also meeting would take place as expected. So it's Quad's role in cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. This would be discussed here, and also the bilateral trade, which is an issue between India and Japan presently, worries regarding it, which will also be discussed in this strategic dialogue meet. Also there are, Japan is a prominent investor in infrastructure projects in the country. DMIC, Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor project has also been invested in by Japan. Also joint connectivity projects in Asia and Africa are being developed, that is also being considered. So this will also be discussed at this meet. The next is Indus Commission talks today. So this is regarding Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan, brokered by World Bank in 1960. So there is this permanent Indus Commission which meets regularly. The 114th meeting of this would take place here in India now. And last year too, the meeting which took place in March 2017 in Islamabad was actually at a time when the relations were sore, because across LOC surgical strikes had taken place. India had struck across the line of control because of the tensions at LOC. So this also presently too, there are LOC crossfiring taking place, plus there are allegations of harassment of diplomats in Delhi and Islamabad. And in this context now, in this scenario, the Indus Water Treaty Permanent Indus Commission meeting would take place. So members from both sides, from India and Pakistan, would meet here on this issue. Last year, the government had announced that it would reconsider its position on the Indus Water Treaty of 1960 because of Pakistan supporting terrorist attacks in India. So the terrorist attacks in Uri had taken place at that time. So this was an issue, though we have still continued to keep our commitment under the treaty. But then the government wants to more effectively utilize water under the Indus Water Treaty. So under the Indus Water Treaty, basically 3 rivers are said to be governed by India and 3 by Pakistan. So Indus, Jhelum and Chenab come under Pakistan, and Ravi, Beas and Satluj come under India. So India is allowed to use 20% of Indus water for irrigation, power generation and transport purposes. So India wants to better utilize its allocation. That's what the claim was made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2017. Then next is Kim Xi Jinping break ice at Beijing summit. The North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, he has met the Chinese President Xi Jinping presently in China. So here this meeting took place, and it has been said by China that North Korea has pledged to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula and also meet US officials. So a meet would take place with even US President Donald Trump is being expected. So China has been traditionally supportive of North Korea, but since North Korea started its pursuit of nuclear weapons, China's backing has also become difficult, because it has also supported UN sanctions in response to this nuclear weapon development by North Korea. So now this meeting has taken place where it has been stated that Kim Jong-un is ready for denuclearization. So earlier to the predecessors, his which are his father and grandfather, they had also promised that they would not develop nuclear weapons, but they continued a secret military program, and the first nuclear test by North Korea took place in 2006 under his father's reign, that is under Kim Jong-il. And now Kim Jong-un has come forward to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. So this is the detail regarding China-North Korea relations as such. They are neighbors here, you can see. Then next is Facebook revamps privacy settings. So Facebook has unveiled new privacy settings in the context of Cambridge Analytica issue, which has taken place there, where it is alleged that millions of Facebook users' personal data was harvested by this Cambridge Analytica firm to help President Donald Trump win the 2016 elections. So now Facebook has said there will be easier access to Facebook's user settings, and tools will be there to easily search for, download and delete personal data stored by Facebook. So this new settings have been put forth. More control is being provided by the users now on how they share their data. Then next is SEBI tightens rules on corporate governance. So SEBI has accepted many recommendations of the Kotak Committee, Uday Kotak Committee on corporate governance, and it has decided to have these recommendations put into effect. So it has decided to reduce the maximum number of directors also from 10 to 7 in a phased manner. Also eligibility criteria would be expanded for directors as such too. There will be enhanced role for audit committee, nomination and remuneration committee, and even risk management committee of various companies. So these are the provisions which have been accepted. Even having norms regarding the number of independent directors, at least one independent woman director, all this would be implemented in a phased manner, with first the bigger firms implementing in the initial phase. So we had discussed this earlier too, that SEBI was in favor of having phased manner implementation of Kotak Committee's recommendations, and now it has put them into effect as stated. So here you can see the details as such are provided in this form. So enhanced role for these panels, stricter eligibility criteria for independent directors, at least one woman independent director in top 500 listed entities, means the prominent companies first by April 2019 in a year, and then it will be expanded further. Even with respect to algorithmic trading, the exchanges have been asked to allow sharing of co-location racks to all members. Also free tick by tick data feeds should be there for all members, all investors. So this is there. Even for mutual funds, additional expenses charges have been reduced from 20 basis point to 5 basis points. So mutual funds also become cheaper. So these are some of the provisions which have been put into effect by SEBI. And this is regarding the Uday Kotak Committee recommendations, which we had discussed earlier. Then next is IDBI Bank reports 772 crore loan fraud. So now IDBI Bank has announced that there is this 772 crore loan fraud which has happened at 5 of its branches in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana between 2009 to 2013. So these were loans provided for fish farming business, and some of these loans, it was later discovered that the aggregators were actually some industrialists who had become common guarantors for these loans, and they had by fraud obtained these loans. So they had actually submitted fake lease documents of non-existent fish ponds also. They had inflated the value of the collateral securities which they had given, and the IDBI Bank has been trying to recover these amounts. Some of these accounts have recovery has been achieved, but most of these accounts have turned non-performing assets from 2014 onwards. So 100% provisioning has also been done by IDBI Bank, and now it has filed this complaint with the CBI as such. And the last news item is biggest space telescope launch delayed till 2020. So this is regarding James Webb Space Telescope of NASA. So this is an $8 billion space telescope which was proposed to be launched in 2019, but now it has been proposed to be launched by May 2020. So this is the world's biggest space observatory being proposed, which will be assisting even the Hubble Space Telescope. So it will be complementing the scientific discoveries of Hubble Space Telescope. So it will be used to solve mysteries of our solar system. And here you can see the details also provided. It's a huge space telescope, successor to Hubble Space Telescope, which will capture infrared light from the first galaxies. So it is so large that to fit it, too large to fit into a rocket, it will be unfolded in orbit and cooled to cryogenic temperatures. So here you can see all these are the primary mirrors here, the back plane located here, secondary mirror located here, and the sun shields are also in place. So this is the huge James Webb Space Telescope which is proposed to be launched. So it's an eye in space. And this is the Hubble Space Telescope which was launched in 1990, still functional, and it still remains in operation. It has been capable to take extremely high resolution pictures with almost no background light. So this is there. You can see some of the achievements of Hubble Space Telescope also listed here. It has precisely measured the age of the universe, found evidence of dark energies, took images of distant galaxies, captured best ever images of Mars, provided proof of black holes, etc. Also showed how stars die. So the confirmation of quasars, that quasars are galactic nuclei powered by black holes, has also been provided by Hubble Space Telescope. So it has been providing this stream of images of space back to Earth from its orbit. So this is there. So these are the news items. Thank you.